Alright, so it's been a while since we did the president guides, but we need to go ahead and get some of them kind of cleared up, and this is a good time because it's getting close to our first kind of exam. So the first course is coming to an end, and we're going to have an exam in a couple weeks. Alright, so we got to get ready for those. So this one will be good for review. So let's take a look at John Quincy Adams. Now, John Quincy Adams, remember, the way he becomes president is very controversial. That era of good feelings comes to an end when the corrupt bargain election. Remember, he is losing both the popular vote and the electoral vote, but since 4 people are running, we only have one political party, 4 people run, he gets kicked into Congress, where Henry Clay, the story goes, is able to swing enough people to John Quincy Adams' side that he becomes president, and Henry Clay gets the Secretary of State job, basically clearing the way for him to become president afterwards. At the time, also we got sectionalism on the rise. East and West is becoming a kind of a sectional tension, although that is starting to go away with more connections to the Northeast. Continued westward movement, pushing those borders further and further west, and that's mainly into the Ohio region, Indiana, Illinois. Alright, so we've already covered the election of 1824. His election of 1828, he's going to lose to Andrew Jackson, and that's going to be the end of John Quincy Adams as president. But let's take a look at what he did while he was president. So he's pushing, his domestic policy is really to push the National Republicans, or what would become known as the Whig Party's viewpoint. And it becomes basically a northern dominated party because they're really all about business, they're all about internal improvements and trying to bind the country together east-west with these federally funded roads. The South was concerned that there's nothing in the Constitution that allows for that, so they thought this was overreach and spending money to benefit portions of the country and not the entire thing as a whole. But with the American system, we have tariffs, we have internal improvements, also a national bank as well. Those are the 3 parts to it. So you see, if you can kind of see echoes, you see echoes of Alexander Hamilton and their plan. All right, but the protective tariffs are going to help northern industries from foreign competition, but southerners are going to be outraged because they're paying higher prices if they buy American goods or British goods than they had before. This is artificially rising the price. This isn't supply and demand. This isn't letting the market work. This is protectionism, and they are paying higher prices, and they're angry about it. Also, that internal improvements. They are concerned that these internal improvements are going to benefit 2 parts of the country, the North and the West. The South is not going to have any part of it. But John Quincy Adams, remember, his base is from the Northeast, and he really believes that the American system is going to help create a market for everybody's goods, for the Western farmers to sell their goods to these factory workers who now need to eat. They're not producing their own food. And also helping create large textile mills through these internal improvements is going to help the South because they have a place to sell their increasing overabundance of cotton. So he's going to approve of federal money for the Cumberland Road in Kentucky, the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, and the connection of the Ohio River to the Great Lakes, plus a couple other things. We've had the Great Dismal Swamp Canal that connected Newport News area of Virginia and northern North Carolina, northeast North Carolina. But he's going to give, or going to get money allocated to expand it, so larger barges could go from North Carolina, which really didn't have a port. Wilmington's starting to emerge, but northeast North Carolina doesn't have a port, so it kind of helps them trade their stuff to a port. Newport News. Indian relations is going to cancel a treaty between the state of Georgia and the Muskogee tribe, which is basically, some people doubt whether the Muskogee were a completely different native group or whether they were a subset of the Cherokee. There were some racial tensions about this, that they weren't completely native, but the tribe had a treaty with Georgia that Georgia forced onto the Muskogee tribe, so John Quincy Adams is going to cancel that. Right. This was a forced treaty. We're not going to play by those rules. So he cancels it. Again, angering the South. So if you can kind of see on the horizon this election of 1828, this dude's not going to get a whole lot of support from the South. On the foreign policy issues, we've got the weird thing is John Quincy Adams was probably one of our preeminent secretaries of state. But when it came to foreign policy, he was bogged down in domestic issues, and Congress was just not letting him do anything. All right, so he's going to have that opposition in Congress, so he doesn't have anything to hang his hat on as far as foreign policy. He is going to resist an effort Congress and Democrats especially wanted to get involved in Greece's war with the Ottoman Empire. They're looking for allies. They're looking for help. They're looking to the United States, but he's going to resist that mainly because he's one of the architects of the Monroe Doctrine, so he can't violate that. We're going into the election of 1828. He's going to lose to Andrew Jackson mainly because he didn't have a chance from the start. That corrupt bargain is really going to put a bad taste in people's mouths, and now we're starting to get a large enfranchisement of the common man, and he is definitely going to be in the mold of a silver spoon elitist from the Northeast. His father had been a president, and people were just kind of balking at that proposition, especially in the South and the West. All right, so next we're going to get into Jackson.